ScienceOf.org, we are so excited to share with you the scientifically based tips, insights, and tools that it can help you to understand what willpower is and how you can increase your access to it so you can meet your goals and live a happier and healthier life. Dr. Kelly McGonigal is a professor at Stanford, and she has done an amazing job compiling the science of willpower research. So for the most part, we will be using her book as a foundation for this series of workshops. If you have not yet purchased her book, go ahead and pause this video and go over to Amazon and buy a copy. We would greatly appreciate it if you would use our link so that Amazon will donate a portion of your purchase to help us bring this information to as many people as possible. To get the most out of this first workshop, you really do need to read the first chapter in the Willpower Instinct book. So why is it important to take the time and energy to read this book and go through this series of workshops to learn how willpower/self-control works and what you can do to get more of it? Well, researchers have found that people who have more willpower are ultimately happier and healthier. Their relationships are more satisfying and last longer. They make more money and go further in their careers. They're better able to manage stress, deal with conflict, and overcome adversity. And they even live longer. If I could offer you a pill that would give you all of those benefits, how much would you pay for it? What would you be willing to sacrifice to get this pill? Well, the pill obviously doesn't exist, not for the lack of trying on the part of the pharmaceutical companies. So until they can figure out the formula, if you want the benefits of more willpower, then you will need to take the time and energy to learn what researchers have found that you can do in order to increase your willpower and attain all the benefits that come with it. When it comes to willpower challenges, it is helpful to remember that everyone has willpower challenges, so there is no need to feel bad about the ones that you have. In fact, in a later workshop, we will learn how feeling bad is actually counterproductive to overcoming your willpower challenge. For some people, their willpower challenge, it's pretty public. But for most people, you might never be able to guess what their willpower challenges are just by looking at them. But like I said, we all have lots of them. Only you know the ones that you want to work on during this series of workshops. So I need for you to identify 2 willpower challenges that you want to work on for the next 9 workshops in this series. The reason for 2 is that one of them needs to be a willpower challenge that you are willing to talk about publicly. If it turns out that your most important willpower challenge is the one that you are comfortable talking about in public, then you don't need to select a second one. But if you would prefer not to disclose your most important willpower challenge in public, then you should go ahead and select a public one to work on at the same time as the private one. So push pause on the video and write down your 2 most important willpower challenges that you're most motivated to work on. Now that you've selected a willpower challenge, we can talk about what willpower is. Dr. Kelly McGonigal explains that there are 3 elements to this energy that we call willpower. I will willpower, and this is the type of willpower that you draw on when you really don't want to be doing something. But by tapping into this willpower, you just power through and keep doing it even though it is hard. So for example, I will finish the time I have left on the treadmill even though every part of my body is telling me that the hot tub will feel so much better. I won't willpower is the willpower you draw on when you are really craving something, but you know that the momentary pleasure isn't worth the short-term and long-term consequences. So for example, I won't cut a larger slice of cake in my pursuit of happiness. And finally, I want willpower. I want willpower is the power that you draw from when you are remembering what your goals and longer-term desires are in the face of immediate gratification. So for example, I want to be healthy and active in my golden years, so I will stay active and eat healthy now, and I won't do the things that, while they might feel good in the short term, they will decrease my chances of achieving my long-term goals. Now, some people have really strong I want willpower muscles, but weak I will muscles. Others have strong I will muscles, and others have strong I won't. Ideally, we want to achieve a balance of all 3 so that we can overcome our willpower challenges. Another way to think about willpower is that it is like a battery. The reason why willpower is so important is because the choices you make are often connected to how much willpower energy you have in your battery. And the battery is basically located in your brain. Willpower energy is constantly going in and out of the battery. During this series of workshops, we will learn what causes the draining and charging of the battery. One of the keys to harnessing the power of willpower is training your brain so that your prefrontal cortex maintains control of the decision-making process. Your prefrontal cortex has the ability to think about how your actions could impact your future in either a positive or negative way. Besides being the rational part of the brain that has the ability to analyze, it is also the creative part of the brain that has the ability to think creatively and come up with win-win solutions. As you go deeper into the brain, you get to the limbic system, where decisions are made more on an emotional and immediate gratification/pleasure level. And even further into the limbic system, you get to the amygdala, where the actions are based more on a fight or flight reaction. So how do we increase the willpower energy in our prefrontal cortex battery so that the prefrontal cortex can help us with our willpower challenges? The first step is to train our brain to become more self-aware. This means we have to intentionally be willing to spend time and energy, either while we are in the moment of struggling with our willpower challenge or after the fact, to analyze what the triggers, habits, and internal and external forces that were influencing our actions. So how do we do that? To answer that question, it might be helpful to think of your body like a puppet on strings. And to simplify things, you can think of this puppet as having three puppet masters: the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, and deeper down in the limbic system, the amygdala. The amygdala has the fastest reaction time of the three puppet masters. In fact, the reaction time is so fast that researchers have discovered the amygdala can not only perceive a tone of voice or facial expression as a threat, but it can also pull the strings on your face to react to that threat before your prefrontal cortex has even had the time to process whether the threat is real or a misunderstanding. The bigger problem is the amygdala of the other person has already seen and reacted to your facial expression, which tends to just add gasoline to the fire. Of course, your prefrontal cortex can still pull back on your facial expression strings once it has realized that the perceived threat was probably a misunderstanding. But since the amygdala of the other person has already seen and reacted to your facial expression, the downward spiral is already in motion. And this is a common problem in relationships. So for example, say this couple starts off the day on a great note. Then later on, the mail is dropped off and there's a credit card bill. They sit down on the couch to look it over, and the total owed is a lot higher than they had budgeted for. As they are looking through the statement, the wife realizes why the statement is so high. Just as she is about to share with her husband the good news, her amygdala sees the look on his face and immediately reacts by getting defensive, because her amygdala tells the rest of her body to prepare to be attacked. Her mouth jumps into action, and before her prefrontal cortex can slam on the brakes, she tells him that the only person he should be upset with is himself, because she had told him last month that if he couldn't stay within the food budget, that he should start making his lunches instead of eating out so much. Well, his amygdala reads her body language and tone of voice and becomes defensive, because his amygdala knows that she is going to continue to attack him verbally. His amygdala comes up with the brilliant idea that the best defense is a good offense, so he says, "Why do you always have to react like this?" Granted, his tone of voice and other body language confirms to her amygdala that it was right all along. So he withdraws, and she withdraws. Now, if we rewind the story, it turns out that it was all a misunderstanding. The good news that she was about to share was that the large bill was because she had purchased $300 worth of clothes online and had returned everything except for a $20 blouse. The return just hadn't been processed before the statement had been mailed. But just when she was about to share that bit of information, her amygdala saw the expression on his face and reacted. The sad thing is, the expression on his face was actually caused by him seeing a number of different charges that he had put on the card for work, but he was trying to remember if he had submitted the receipts. Had both of them been able to wait just a few more seconds before saying anything, they would have been able to get the correct information to their prefrontal cortices and avoided the whole relationship meltdown and drama. So while we might not always be able to control our first facial reactions, we do have the ability to bite our tongues and give our prefrontal cortex a chance to process all of the facts before our tongue says something to make things worse. This does take a little more time and energy, but it actually ends up taking less time and energy to prevent situations like this than to clean them up after the fact. So, if you want more of this and less of that, then it might be worth it to take the time to learn how to better control the amygdala puppet master. And during this and upcoming workshops, we will teach you the researched information to do just that. The limbic system is also pretty fast at pulling the strings on your body. When someone asks if you want a piece of cheesecake, it seems like your mouth is already moving to say yes before your prefrontal cortex has had the time to process the request and make an informed decision, rather than just the instant reaction that the limbic system is pulling your strings for. Basically, your limbic system runs on the instant gratification principle of, I want the pleasure now because if I wait, I might lose out on it later. A lot of willpower challenges are between your limbic puppet master and your prefrontal cortex puppet master. To achieve health and happiness, it doesn't mean that you have to get to the point where you cut all the strings to your limbic system puppet master. Overcoming willpower challenges and achieving more health and happiness are achieved when your limbic puppet master and your prefrontal cortex puppet master are working in harmony. This allows you to still experience the pleasures of life, but to do so based off of informed decision making rather than instant gratification decision making. And that can make all the difference when it comes to achieving your short-term and long-term goals. Hopefully, the last few slides have helped you to understand better how the amygdala and limbic puppet masters tend to pull the strings that get us into trouble and make messes, and that the prefrontal cortex puppet master has to step in and try to clean up the mess. Now, a better way would be to help the prefrontal cortex to prevent the mess in the first place by increasing our self-awareness. Self-awareness is like turning on a light and exposing which puppet master is currently pulling the strings. Sometimes, just by being aware that we are being heavily influenced by the fear or anger coming from our amygdala can help us to cut the strings of this puppet master and at least make it not as powerful. Same thing for being aware of the cravings that the limbic system uses to overwhelm our brain and body, as that puppet master tries to convince us that not only do we want what we think our willpower challenge will give us, but that we need it. Self-awareness boils down to becoming aware of which puppet master is pulling the strings on your body when you are faced with your willpower challenge. Throughout this series of workshops, we will be teaching you how to use a number of different skills and tools to increase your self-awareness. We will pull the tools from the Make It Happen toolbox. We use that name as a reminder that while a tool is great, it can't help us unless we use the tool to make it happen. The first tool from the Make It Happen toolbox that will help with your self-awareness is a battery charger. And in this case, the battery charger is meditation. Researchers have found that meditation can significantly increase the strength of your prefrontal cortex battery, and it weakens the strength of your amygdala battery. In just 2 months of regular meditation, researchers at Harvard were able to measure a significant decrease in the amount of gray matter in the amygdala and a significant increase in the gray matter in your prefrontal cortex. Think of gray matter as kind of like the size of the battery that the puppet masters can draw energy from. If you want to overcome your willpower challenge, then you want your prefrontal cortex puppet master to have the biggest battery. But once again, this knowledge is only helpful if you apply it. And it is super easy to get excited about the potential of the seeds/ideas, especially when the research is so compelling as to the benefits. But if you never get around to planting the seed, or in this case, applying the knowledge, then you will just be left with the knowledge and none of the benefits. Also, these seeds are special seeds in that you need to not only apply them by planting them, but you also need to nurture them on a daily basis if they are going to have a chance to take root and grow. It is important to point out that not all seeds/ideas are going to work for everyone. So if you have been diligent about nurturing the seed of the knowledge or ideas, and it just isn't working out for you, no worries, because during the upcoming workshops, we will be teaching about a lot more seeds that you can try. So the seed we want you to plant this week is to do 5 minutes of focused breathing meditation every day. It really is as simple as it sounds. Just take a deep breath and let it out. Focus on your breathing for 5 minutes. If your mind starts to wander, just focus on taking deep breaths again and letting them slowly out. Not only will this help increase the size of your prefrontal cortex battery, but by taking deep breaths and being intentional about your breathing, it also activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which tells the vagus nerve to release calming hormones that put your body into a state of relaxation. Basically, it's kind of like melting away the stress that builds up in your life. There are lots of focused breathing apps that you can download. One that is easy to use is an app called Calm, and you can actually find it at calm.com. Once you have a fully charged battery, the next tool from the Make It Happen toolbox that you can use to overcome your willpower challenge is a flashlight, to see the strings of the puppet masters in the dark. The flashlight in this case is an awareness journal that you will write down your thoughts and feelings when presented with your willpower challenge. In addition to a paper copy, you could also journal using an app on your phone or a computer. What matters more than which type of journaling that you do is that you actually do it. So pick the method that you feel will give you the greatest chances of success. As you journal, try to identify all the circumstances and strings from the puppet masters that are being pulled during your willpower challenge. So for example, can you identify the trigger that set in motion the series of thoughts and actions that led to you struggling with your willpower challenge? What were the exact thoughts before, during, and after your willpower challenge? How did you feel before, during, and after? Did the expectation of how you thought you would feel live up to your expectations? If you didn't give in to your willpower challenge, how did you feel? What habits are in place that make it easier to give in to your willpower challenge? What are the external forces that make it easy or hard to give in? And what are some other strings that the puppet masters use when you are struggling with your willpower challenge? Ideally, you should try to answer these questions as soon as possible after your willpower challenge. If that isn't possible, you should take at least a few minutes each night to answer them. If you didn't have a struggle with your willpower challenge that day, then think back to previous times that you have struggled. By the end of the week, you should have a pretty good idea what all the strings are and how the puppet masters are pulling them. And with that knowledge, you will be better positioned to use the other skills and tools that we will teach in upcoming workshops to change which puppet master has more control of the strings so that you can overcome your willpower challenge. Another tip that will help you to successfully use these tools and plant the seeds I learned when I was young. When I was growing up, I can remember one spring when my family planted a garden in our backyard. But since no one ever really went into the backyard, it didn't get much watering, weeding, and the nurturing that was necessary for the seeds to grow. When the time came that everyone else was enjoying the amazing harvest from their gardens, we had nothing to show for our initial efforts. In fact, the only thing that had grown were the weeds, and even they were dead. Now, were the seeds that we planted bad? No. The results we ended up with was because of the lack of our efforts to nurture those seeds. So years later, when I had a family, I decided to plant a small garden of tomato plants right by the front door. I figured that if I saw them every day, it would increase my chances of taking care of the tomato plants. And that made all of the difference. Not only did I end up with tomato plants that bore fruit, but I ended up with plants that grew over 6 feet tall. The lesson I learned is that you will significantly increase your chances of successfully nurturing seeds if you keep them front and center. We suggest the same thing with the seeds that you will plant each week. One tool to help you to do that is a reminder app on your phone. There are a lot out there. One that you may want to consider is called Strides. It allows you to set alarms to remind you about your seeds, and it allows you to set goals on how many times a day you will take the time and effort to nurture that seed. And most importantly, it allows you to track that progress. We teach about a concept that we call track it to a habit. Researchers have found that by tracking your efforts to establish a habit, you can significantly increase the chances that you will successfully implement that habit. So don't cut corners on tracking your efforts. The extra time and energy it takes will pay off. So use the Strides app or something similar to help you to track it to a habit. In addition to using a track it to a habit tool like the Strides app, it is also important to use some other tools from the Make It Happen toolbox. So the next tool you will need to learn how to use is a blueprint. And that blueprint is called the Make It Happen action plan. Thoreau said that if you have built castles, or in this case goals, in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put the foundations under them. Writing down a Make It Happen action plan is like the blueprint for that foundation. Researchers have found that if you take the time to write down an action plan, you will significantly increase your chances of actually making it happen. The first step of creating that blueprint and the Make It Happen action plan is to define your goals using the SMART goals outline. So S stands for specific and significant. M stands for measurable and meaningful. A stands for attainable and action-oriented. R stands for relevant and rewarding. And T stands for time-bound and trackable. You should have weekly SMART goals as well as daily SMART goals. So an example of a weekly SMART goal would be, I will do 5 minutes of daily breath-focused meditation each week, and I will use the Strides app every day to track my progress. Sometimes some extra motivation in the form of a reward for meeting your daily and weekly goals can help. In a minute, we will explain about the Extra Motivation Network that you can participate in by attending the online or in-person workshops. But apart from that, you can also include your own reward as part of your SMART goal plan. The daily SMART goal will be similar, but even more specific. So for example, I will do 5 minutes of daily breath-focused meditation at 6 a.m. today, and I will use the Strides app to track my progress and send me a reminder to do it at 6 a.m. Now don't forget to include small daily rewards that you will find motivating. So pause the video and go ahead and write down your weekly and daily SMART goals for how you will plant your 2 seeds of knowledge this week. And just as a reminder, the 2 seeds are focused breathing meditation, and the second one is awareness journaling. In a perfect world, just creating a SMART goal might be enough, but we live in an imperfect world, and the best laid plans often encounter bumps in the road. Some we can predict, while others we just have to adjust our plans to in the moment. So the next tool to pull out of the Make It Happen toolbox is a crystal ball. Now I need you to use this crystal ball and look into the future and try to identify all of the challenges that you might encounter that could derail your ability to complete your SMART goals this week. So pause the video and write them down. The next tool to pull out of the Make It Happen toolbox is a brainstorming light bulb. This tool is used to help you to come up with solutions to deal with the challenges that you just identified from the crystal ball exercise that might prevent you from accomplishing your SMART goals. In the live online or in-person workshops, we use this tool as a group because the synergy that can come from a group tends to make the bulb burn brighter, and the creative solutions give you more options to deal with the challenges. But you can still use this tool on your own, so pause the video and brainstorm solutions to deal with the challenges that may come up. The next tool to pull out of the Make It Happen toolbox is a cell phone. This tool will help you to communicate with your primary accountability partner via email, text, or a phone call. Now, you may not feel comfortable recruiting a primary accountability partner, but the research has shown it will significantly increase your chances of success by a lot. The checking in with your primary accountability partner can be really simple and fast, or more involved. Just don't skip this tool. So pause the video and identify a handful of people you would like to approach about being your primary accountability partner, and then start reaching out to them until one of them agrees. For those attending the online or in-person workshops, you will also have your Synergy Accountability Network. Dr. McGonigal found that by just sharing with the group and reporting back, it will significantly increase your chances of success. And I'll explain more about it in a minute. After you have completed 1 week of working on your Willpower Challenge, then we will pull out 3 more tools from the Make It Happen toolbox at the online or in-person workshop. The first tool is a trophy. It really is important to celebrate your successes, no matter how small or large they might be. That's why we take some time during the workshops to celebrate. This is also when we recognize those who are participating in the Extra Motivation Network. We present symbolic checks for those getting paid for successfully making progress towards their goals. And we present symbolic checks for those we are donating money on behalf of to a nonprofit that they love as a reward for making progress towards their goals. At the end of this workshop, I will explain more details about the Extra Motivation Network for those who are interested. The next tool is a magnifying glass. Before you attend the next workshop, take the time to look back on the last week. What worked? What didn't? Some of the workshop time is spent sharing your discoveries. This will not only help you, but it will also help the others who are participating as well. The next tool in the Make It Happen toolbox is gears. The gears symbolize the synergy that comes from participating in the SAN. SAN stands for Synergy Accountability Network. Synergy, like gears, is able to take your effort and magnify it many times over. Being part of a group of people that you are accountable to in your efforts to implement the knowledge that you are learning can significantly increase the chances that you will actually do it. And being part of a network of people who care about you and your success can make all the difference when it comes to overcoming your willpower challenges. Trying to implement this knowledge on your own and overcome your willpower challenge by yourself is like limiting yourself to one gear on a bike. Is it possible to make it happen? Of course it is. But anyone who has ever tried to ride a single speed bike up a hill will tell you that it is really hard, and that the steeper the hill gets, the harder it becomes. Getting over a challenging hill becomes a lot easier when you use a bike that has a lot of gears. The same principle applies to using the extra gears from your Synergy Accountability Network that is formed at the online or in-person workshops. By tapping into the extra synergistic power that comes from your SAM, it can significantly help you overcome your willpower challenge. And the last tool in the Make It Happen toolbox for this week is a sledgehammer. We cannot emphasize enough how important it is to take action if you want to experience a breakthrough with your willpower challenge. A basic principle in life is that if you keep doing what you are doing, you will keep getting what you are getting. So try doing something different this week when it comes to your willpower challenge. And turn the knowledge you have learned into action, because action really does change things. And when that knowledge that you are acting on is research-based, then your chances of making the breakthrough on your willpower challenge is significantly increased. So I hope that you've been able to learn something new, and I hope that you are feeling inspired to implement it in your life. As I mentioned before, this is just the first in a series of workshops to help you to learn the research-based information that can help you to overcome your willpower challenges so that you can live a happier and healthier life. I'd like to invite you to sign up for the next workshop in this series at ScienceOf.org. We have a number of online options each week, and we have some in-person workshops as well. You can learn more at ScienceOf.org. One tip about the online and in-person workshops is that while participation is totally voluntary, and it really is okay to come and just listen, you will get a lot more out of the experience if you choose to participate. So if you'd like more interaction and more feedback, then sign up for a small size workshop. With only 5 to 10 participants, there is time for everyone who wants to participate. Or you can sign up for a medium-sized workshop with 11 to 20 participants, where most, but not all, will be able to participate each time. And in the large workshops with more than 50 participants, there will only be enough time for a few people to participate. The last thing I wanted to cover is that we really are super excited about the Extra Motivation Network. Researchers have found that money and love will often motivate us to do things that we might otherwise not have done. So, for example, how motivated would you be to apply what you learned if it meant that you would be paid $100? Now, how motivated would you be if it meant that a nonprofit organization that you love would receive a $3,000 check each week? To help you to increase your motivation to apply what you learn, we have created the Extra Motivation Network program. Basically, it's kind of like an affiliate program. So when you tell someone about the ScienceOf.org workshops, then we consider you to be their sponsor. Here's how it works so that we can pay you to achieve your goals and support the nonprofit organizations that you love. Every time a person you sponsor purchases a ticket to our workshop, we will set aside 7.5% of the price of their ticket for your Extra Motivation Cash account. When your Extra Motivation Cash account reaches at least $100, you can let us know which goal you want to meet in order to earn that money. Once you reach your goal, we will send you the money that you've earned. see additional terms and conditions at the bottom of the homepage at ScienceOf.org. The other extra motivation account that we'll set up is the Love account. The reason why it is called a Love account is because you tell us which nonprofit organization that you would love to support each week, and we will make a donation in your name to that organization. The money will come from the sales of the tickets within your Extra Motivation Network. For each workshop ticket that is sold in the 2nd through 5th degree of your network, 0.5% will go into your Extra Motivation Love account. Each week, you can let us know at the workshop you attend where you would like the money from the previous week to be donated. See additional terms and conditions at the bottom of the ScienceOf.org homepage. Here's an example of how the money can grow in your Extra Motivation Love account. If you sponsored 10 people, and each of those 10 people were to sponsor 10 others, then you would have 10 people in your first degree that you sponsored times the 10 people that they each sponsored, which would equal 100 people in your second degree network, times $6 equals $600 in tickets, times the 0.5% equals a $3 donation. So not too much, but as they say, every little bit does help. But as you are about to see, when additional degrees in your network are added, then the amount of the weekly donation can start to add up quickly. So, if each of the 100 people from your second degree network each sponsor 10 people, that would equal 1,000 people in your third degree network. So 100 people from your second degree network times 10 people that they each sponsored equals 1,000 people in your third degree network times $6 equals $6,000 times 0.5% equals a $30 donation. Still not a lot, but better than $3. And if it is averaged that much each week, it would be a donation of over $1,500 a year. Then, if each of the 1,000 people from your third degree network were to each sponsor 10 people, you would then have 10,000 people in your fourth degree network. So, 1,000 people from your third degree network times 10 people that they each sponsored equals 10,000 people in your fourth degree network times $6 equals $60,000 times 0.5% equals a $300 donation. Now is when it starts to get kind of exciting. If that amount is averaged out over the course of a year, it would be over $15,000 in donations to your favorite charity. And finally, if the 10,000 people from your fourth degree network each sponsor 10 people, then you would have 100,000 people in your fifth degree network. So, 10,000 people from your fourth degree network times 10 people that they each sponsored equals 100,000 people times $6 equals $600,000 times 0.5% equals $3,000 into your Extra Motivation Love account each week. And if you averaged that over the course of a year, it would be over $150,000 in donations to your favorite charity. So just for a moment, think about the lives that could be impacted by that kind of donation. Most people can get pretty motivated when it means that $150,000 could be donated to their favorite charity. Now this is just a hypothetical example, and that the amount of money in each of your accounts could be more or less than this scenario based on how many people end up in your Extra Motivation Network and the price of the workshops that they choose to attend. But it does give you an idea of how quickly your Extra Motivation Network can grow if everyone in your network will sponsor at least 10 other active participants. But as much as we would love to help you to raise money for your favorite nonprofit, our most important mission is to enable you with the knowledge and tools to build the bridges to overcome your willpower challenges so that you can experience a happier and healthier